All right, what's up, and welcome into A Bettor Morning right here on the Better Sports Network. Better Morning brought to you by Rival Fantasy, your all-in-one fantasy sports platform. A little bit later on in the program, we will get to some Rival Fantasy for the day. We're also going to get to some Heisman Trophy odds as we get ready to go into Week 5 of the college football season. Share a couple thoughts on that. Got a couple of NFL games I want to take a look at as well, give you my thoughts and opinions on that, and obviously we will start with what took place last night at Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra. Not quite frozen yet, as the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers got together in a NFC North battle on a Thursday night. And you know what? It was all Detroit Lions. Detroit comes to the game as a 2.5-point favorite. They successfully laid a 2.5. The over also cashes as well, as the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers combined for 54 points total. I believe it was about 45 points last night. So if you were on the Lions and the over, the two public plays, basically that came home last night. Big story fantasy-wise was David Montgomery, 32 carries, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns as the Detroit Lions just pounded the ball. Also saw Jared Goff throw for 210 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Aaron Jones made his return last night for the Green Bay Packers, pretty much ineffective. And so Christian Watson did catch a touchdown, but Romeo Doubs, 9 catches for 95 yards. Jordan Love, once again, uneven in this game. Fantasy numbers might look pretty decent. 23 of 36, 245, and a touchdown, but 2 interceptions, a lot of patting the football and things like that. And one thing I will say about Love early in his career is you see flashes of him being a real good quarterback, and then you also see flashes of him being Dak Prescott. So you want to avoid the latter. Shawnee Mack in the chat, what's going on? Shawnee, what's up with you? Now, I think what's really telling and interesting about this run that the Detroit Lions are on right now is how they have taken on, a lot of times you'll see, let's turn to baseball right now, for example, how a team like the Baltimore Orioles, the lovable losers, can come up, you know what I'm saying? And obviously, the lovable losers, when they get some momentum going, they tend to grab new fans to come in. And basically, that's the same thing that's going on with the Detroit Lions right now. Because you see Lions fans take over Lambeau Field last night, traveling all over the place, showing up for their team, doing a great job. But you go on social media and everybody is a Detroit Lion fan all of a sudden. I mean, people that didn't even know what a Detroit Lion was a year ago are all of a sudden talking about the Detroit Lions and how that's their team. But yes, the Detroit Lions have almost become a version of America's team this year. I'm sorry, Heather. I'm telling the truth. A lot of people I know, including you, had no clue what a Detroit Lion was a couple years ago. But now everybody is all about the Detroit Lions. And you know what? As a fan of the team that's really America's team, I don't mind seeing it. You know what I'm saying? It's good to see the lovable losers come up and stuff like that. Hal, what's going on with you, my man? Sitting up here this morning talking about this Green Bay Packer team, how they let us down last. Well, not let us down because I wasn't on them, and how the Detroit Lions have all of a sudden become the lovable losers, America's favorite fan base. Dan Campbell getting it done, though. You know what I'm saying? So let me tell you something. I'll be honest with you about the Lions. And listen, I've said that they have been, I think that they are fugazi. So let me not say it that way. I'm not going to say that the Detroit Lions are not real. What I'll say is this. This is not a NFC championship game team. Can this team be playing in the divisional round? Yes, they can. Will they win a wild card weekend game? It's a good chance they could probably do that as well. But they're not Dallas. They're not Philadelphia. They're not San Francisco. And they played the Seahawks already, and they lost to them. So that goes to show you when they step up in competition in the NFC, it could be problematic. The problem is it ain't that much competition in the NFC. So the Lions are going to be straight, not trying to take anything away from them. They're not trying to take anything away from the Detroit Lions, but listen, it's a good run right now. But listen, it's going to be a fun season for the Detroit Lions, and I'm glad that they're doing well. Thanksgiving Day and all of that. You know how miserable that franchise has been for all these many years now, but now they get a chance to show their thing and show that they're playing well. And in about 3 years, they've turned this thing around. As far as the schedule goes, a couple of weeks from now, they have to go to Baltimore. That's going to be a tough game. They go to the Chargers. That's going to be a tough game. It's going to be interesting to see how they can compete with teams in the AFC. They got to go to New Orleans later on this year. That's going to be an interesting game. And they also go to Dallas right before the New Year. So Still got some good matchups out there for them. My man Hal says local radio in Detroit asking guests if Sam Laporta going to get a gold jacket. They already got Sam Laporta in Canton. I know what I'm doing. I'm playing on my fantasy team. He's getting it done, so I ain't even worried about that. But here's the thing that's really impressive about the Detroit Lions. Their run defense has been excellent this season. These past 2 weeks has been off the charts. They were talking about Aaron Glenn last night, and I think Aaron Glenn is a strong contender to be the guy who wins the Assistant Coach of the Year award. Aaron Glenn has been fantastic. Last night, that defense only gave up 27 yards rushing. The week before versus the Atlanta Falcons, who don't want to do anything. The Atlanta Falcons are known for running the football. They ran for 44 yards against that game against the Detroit Lions. In their past 2 weeks, they've held the Falcons and the Packers running games to 2.2 yards a carry. That's excellent right there. That run, and here's the thing about run defenses, right? Run defense is about attitude. Run defense is about toughness. Run defense travels. So when they go on the road on some of these bigger games like they did last night, you can take that run defense and get in the plane and to go with you. Bad offensive lines don't travel. Good run defenses travel because that's the nature of a good run defense, going out there and toughing it out. So got to give the Detroit Lions their props. I would just say let's temper our expectations. I don't plan on seeing them perform or, playing before Usher performs in the halftime show at the Super Bowl. I'm letting the Detroit Lions are going to be there. Teams like Philadelphia, San Francisco, Dallas, and maybe even Seattle they already beat them, have the upper hand on the Lions. But I'm not gonna rain on Lion fan parade because that was an impressive performance last night, and that defense is definitely looking good so far this season. So shout out to the Detroit Lions. All right, yeah, decent fantasy night, whatever. I woke up. Of course, I had to go against David Montgomery in the league. So I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I can't win for losing. Oh boy, it's not even October yet, and I already feel defeated as a fantasy person. You know what I'm saying? So whatever, we'll figure it out. Though, still plenty of time to go. Got to hit that waiver wire, get that done, do it strong. One of the things we can do, maybe I need to do it myself, is start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All Pro subscription. Get all the week 4 and 5 DFS content and picks for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. As a matter of fact, they threw the week 5 in there too for you. So that free trial to Fantasy Alarm's All Pro subscriptions comes with free DFS picks for week 4 and 5. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win to get involved with that right there. Speaking of winning, I plan on doing a lot this weekend. Duke got those critical matchups in the AFC with Miami and Buffalo. I like Buffalo in that one. I also like the Ravens over the Cleveland Browns. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Houston Texans. Another interesting matchup is the Los Angeles Rams versus the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. And damn, Hal left Dobbs on the bench. It was not a bad play. It sucks when that happens, though. But this matchup between the Rams and the Colts, I think is going to be interesting. We've seen that, what's my boy name? Anthony Richardson has gotten 2 days of practice already. So A. Rich will be back out there in the starting lineup for the for the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. And you know what? He's going into my fantasy lineups. I'm playing him over Joe Burrow. I'm playing him over Geno Smith. I'm playing him obviously over Geno, but I'm playing him over Joe Burrow. That's telling right there. Anthony Richardson is going to be my QB1 in my fantasy leagues where I have A. Rich. So Anthony Richardson goes back into my lineups. Glad to see him back out there. And I think the Colts are a gritty and tough enough team to come back and win this game. I don't like the Rams on this double road spot, so I think that's going to be problematic for them. So I like the Indianapolis Colts to win this game right here. I think Shane Steichen has really schemed this offense well. Got the perfect quarterback in A. Rich. Now, what I don't like about Rich is the fact that he's played in 2 games and he's been injured twice and missed the game already. So that's a little bit problematic. But he is their primary goal line running back. And this is the game right here where I think he's going to get an opportunity to score a couple touchdowns. So I'm in on Anthony Richardson. Also like the way that Michael Pittman is playing. Glad I got him in a couple leagues. I've had him in a couple draft leagues over in a couple sites. And he is doing well for me so far this season. So like the Indianapolis Colts to get the win on that one right there. A little bit of fade the public action as the public is in on the road favorite. They were a 1-point favorite in the Los Angeles Rams. I talked about Commanders and Eagles earlier this week. Hold your nose spot. but take the Commanders getting a 9.5 in this one right here. The Commanders generally tend to play the Philadelphia Eagles well. Now, what I do worry, now listen, I'm just wagering on them to cover the 9. They're probably not going to win the game because remember I told you about bad offensive lines? They don't travel. Washington has a bad offensive line. One of the Philadelphia's strengths is their defensive line. So I don't expect it to get carried away, though. That's what I'm trying to say. Our house says Superflex League. If Fields go off, trade him or hold him, trade him. That's how I look at it right there. I don't know. Something about Justin Fields doesn't look right, but does got the good matchup this week versus Denver Broncos. If Sean Payton and that crew can't get it done this week, then they need to be evaluated. Sitting up there talking about Nate Hackett. What else we got this week? Yeah, Broncos Bears will not make my card. No interest in that. Panthers and Vikings, interesting one. If Andy Dalton gets to start, maybe you like Carolina to cover, but I do like the Minnesota Vikings to get the win in this game right here, laying 4.5 on the road down here in Carolina. Just Frank Wright just doesn't seem like he's got a grasp on this offensive line. I'm very much overestimated what Frank Wright was going to be able to do with this thing right here. I don't want to put too much on the young quarterback because he's not really getting the best coach and he's not really getting helped out too much right now. So I'm not going to put it on Bryce Young. If he gets out there this weekend, which we think he should, it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. Alexander Madison can't make it. Could be guys this weekend in fantasy. Is that Carolina front is pretty easy to run on, which that was not the case with Carolina last year. They were one of the best teams versus the run. So they do have some changes on that defensive line, but really that Carolina team has talent on it. It's not being schemed right now. So I think the Minnesota Vikings, they go out there and they get their win over the Carolina Panthers in that game right there. Listen, when you get 80% of the people on the Vikings, it's tough to back them. Like I said, I won't back them against the spread, but I will back them on the money line to win the game straight up. Vegas and the Chargers, AFC West battle. Take the 5.5 with the Raiders. I know. It's a tough spot when you're going for the Raiders. They've let me down so many times the past 2 seasons, but that 5.5 right there is telling. That road 5.5 so far this year is 3-1 on the money line and 3-1 straight. 3-1 straight up, 3-1 ATS, road 5.5 dogs, and 3-1 on the money line. Once again, 5.5-point road underdogs this season. We've seen 4 of them. 3 of them have won the game outright. So there you go right there. Take that a little bit of advice. Put that in your pocket from the fantasy executive. Finally, I want to talk about Cowboys and Patriots. Marquee matchup between 2 of the real popular teams in the NFL. Like 2 of the teams that really do have big fan bases, not the Detroit Lions. Nah, I kid. But listen, Cowboys, Patriots, it's going to be a close game. One of the things that we've already seen from the Dallas Cowboys is if you can run the football on them, go ahead and run the football. The thing with Dallas is you don't want to get behind them because once you get behind them and you got to go to the air, that defensive line going to unload on you. They're just going to rush, attack, and cause turnovers, get short fields. That's how Dallas wins. They create turnovers. They get short fields. They send the offense out there for a little while, run the ball, kick a field goal, get the team back, let their pass rush get after you again, turn the ball over again. And that's basically, but here's the thing. Patriots ain't going to turn the ball over. The Patriots are going to commit to the run. It's going to be a close game. Dak Prescott is going to have to win the game. I'm letting you know now. Dak Prescott is going to have to win the game. If he doesn't, you better be here Monday morning because I might blow a gasket. This is a must-win situation already early in the season. You got to bounce back from that one last week. So that's the feelings of the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, that's where I'm at with Big D. I'm about to get to Rival Fantasy in a minute and get into the challenges game. Let you know what I feel about a couple plays this weekend. But first, I want to talk about a big weekend coming up in college football. And I really want to look at Heisman Trophy odds, and I really kind of want to talk about how this Pac-12, these quarterbacks in this Pac-12 is looking very award-winning-ish. Let's start with the guy with the shortest odds right now. Michael Penix Jr. currently has the shortest odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook to win the Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams was a little bit uneasy last week, but when you look at Penix Jr., I mean, he's getting it done. Solid quarterback, throwing for 400, almost 500 yards every week so far this season. Completion percentage up there above 70. He's getting it done. Now, they do got some big matchups that's going to be determined what he looks like in the Heisman race coming up. It won't be this week versus Arizona. He'll continue to put up those big weeks, those big numbers. But Oregon comes to town in 2 weeks. Then they're at USC, at Utah, at Oregon State to close the season. So that's really, if he's going to make his Heisman Trophy run, it's going to start in late October and take him through late November into the rest of the season. So that's what Michael Penix is basically looking up at right now. He should remain the favorite or just about the second guy over the next couple of weeks until that happens. Up next, Caleb Williams, QB1. You already know how that goes right there. Big games coming up versus Notre Dame. Got the BET Awards this weekend versus Colorado. That's going to be lit. So he'll get a lot of shine on that one right there. But obviously those games versus Notre Dame and those Pac-12 games down the stretch are going to be how we tell the tale this year for Caleb Williams, as he tried to be the first person since Archie Griffin to win 2 Heisman Trophy awards. Also looking at Quinn Ewers in Texas. Big game versus Oklahoma coming up shortly. That'll be about 2 weekends from now down there in Dallas at the State Fair. That's what Quinn Ewers is going to be based on. Bo Nix, we've already seen big performances from Bo Nix so far this season. That Pac-12 schedule is going to be critical. Jordan Travis, I am not really in on Jordan Travis. Listen, Florida State did beat Clemson. Florida State's going to have big matchups with Duke coming up down the stretch. Obviously, Miami, Florida State. What could help Jordan Travis is Florida State is probably going to be a national championship contender this year. Looks like they'll go to the college football playoff and they can run this table with teams that they'll be favored against. But Travis hasn't looked great in doing it. Florida State got some DAWG dogs on defense. They've been getting it done. LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels got a big one this weekend going out to Ole Miss. He's at 18-1 on the on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Big matchup coming up next month versus the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. That will tell the tale for Jaden Daniel and his Heisman hopefuls right there. Now a player I do want to look at a little bit down the board. And everybody listening should be putting at least $10 on this guy right here. He's 45-1 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. He is probably a top 5 quarterback in college football, and nobody is talking about him. His name is Cameron Ward. He's the quarterback for Washington State, not the Huskies, Washington State Cougars, the team that wear red and white. He is electric. He is a guy, if that Washington State team gets on the run and knocks off a couple of these powerhouse teams in the Pac-12, he is a guy that's sitting at 45-1 right now that will shoot up odds boards. He's going to get a chance to play in some big games coming up down the stretch. Most of you have not seen him yet. His name is Cameron Ward. He's a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate, and right now sitting at 45-1 over there on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So you want to get involved with that right there. Hope everybody enjoys the big weekend of college football coming up. Now, time to get into some Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy, if you did not know, is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Play challenges, Fantasybook, Fantasy Bingo, plus season-long fantasy football. If your fantasy football season is already a bust, draft a second chance team. Be like me. I don't need to worry about Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp. But listen, these season-long leagues, you draft it over there in Rival Fantasy, you can receive up to $250 in cash prizes. Go to joinrival.com/alarm. New users who sign up at Rival Fantasy get a $200 deposit match and a complimentary first play voucher. So let's go over to Rival Fantasy right now. Hop in there and look at the challenges game. And what you see right here, we good to go? All right, well, you see right here with the challenges game, you got Josh Allen versus Trevor Lawrence in this one right here. Trevor Lawrence across the pond out there in London. This is an easy play. I think Josh Allen and the crew right there get it done this week. So I'm going to go with Josh Allen to score more fantasy points than Trevor Lawrence. Go ahead right there. That one is confirmed. What we got up next, Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. Don't really like this play right here because, like I said, I do think Raiders are live in this game. I'm not really fooling with anything across the pond in London, so I'm going to skip that challenge right there. Then you have Kirk Cousins and Trevor Lawrence. I would go with Kirk Cousins in this one. Skip that challenge, though. Then you got Tua and Trevor Lawrence. Skip that challenge. Don't really want to go against Tua. And I'm not fooling with Dak Prescott. A lot of Trevor Lawrence challenges here today. But here's one right here that's interesting. Travis Kelce and the New York and the Kansas City Chiefs go to New York to take on the Jets. Taylor Swift could be in the building. So I'm going to go with Travis Kelce showing off for his boo thing. So I place that right there. And that's how I'm going on this edition of, I said Travis Swift, I mean Taylor Swift. I'm sorry. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. That's how I'm going right there. So to make sure you check out Rival Fantasy. Once again, that's Rival Fantasy, your all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Play challenges, Fantasybook, Fantasy Bingo, season-long fantasy, So there you get all the things you need over there right there. If your season-long fantasy team is already a bust, draft a second chance season-long with Rival Fantasy and receive $250 in cash prizes. Join Rival.com/alarm. New users who sign up at Rival Fantasy get a $200 deposit match and a complimentary first play voucher. T. Sweezy, Taylor Swift, likely to be at that game. I'm not sure what all the hype about Taylor Swift is, to be honest with you. Just don't do it for me. You know what I'm saying? Not really enough what the fantasy executive is looking for. But I hope you all have a great weekend this weekend. Best of luck in your fantasy leagues. Best of luck with your wagers. For the lovely and talented Heather Klein, it's your boy, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, wishing you a better weekend.